Tensions are once again rising in the West Philippine Sea, with incidents occurring in the Escoda Shoal for the second straight week. Early on August 19th, a Chinese Coast Guard ship and 2 Philippine Coast Guard vessels were involved in a ramming incident, resulting in structural damage to both Filipino ships, but no reported injuries. China appears to be stepping up its presence in this shoal, making dubious claims of defending its sovereignty against the unauthorized activities of Philippine ships in the internationally recognized Philippine Exclusive Economic Zone, as evidenced by 2 incidents this week between the Philippines and China. This appears to demonstrate that the attempts to de-escalate the tensions in the region that led to the agreement between China and the Philippines in the Second Thomas Shoal were short-lived, and there is regional and international concern that the Escoda Shoal is the new flashpoint in the region. 8 Chinese ships, including Chinese Coast Guard vessels and at least 1 People's Liberation Army Navy warship, intercepted the BRP Datu Sanday, a Philippine Bureau of Fisheries and Aquatic Resources ship, on Sunday, August 25th, in the Escoda Shoal. The Chinese Coast Guard spokesman, Gan Yu, stated that the Philippine ship approached the Chinese vessels, maneuvering dangerously and unprofessionally, resulting in a brush between the Philippine vessel and a Chinese Coast Guard vessel. In their statement, the Philippines claimed that the incident involved ramming and the use of a water cannon against the Philippine vessel, resulting in damage and the failure of its engines. The Philippine ship had journalists aboard, and they were able to document the incident in accordance with the Philippine Transparency Campaign in the West Philippine Sea. Ganyu responded that the journalists aboard the Datu Sanday were there to distort facts, and the media-provided videos are not to be believed. The next incident this week occurred the next day, on Monday, August 26th, in the Escoda Shoal, when 2 Philippine Coast Guard ships encountered 40 ships, which included the Chinese Maritime Militia, Coast Guard, and at least 3 People's Liberation Army Navy warships. The Chinese claimed to have implemented control measures against the Philippine ships, accusing them of intruding into their territorial waters. The Philippines deemed the Chinese's deployment of 40 ships in the shoal to intercept Philippine Coast Guard ships as excessive, and the presence of so many ships in the region suggests that the Chinese are trying to prevent the Philippines from accessing the Escoda Shoal, which is just 85 miles, 835 kilometers, from the nearest Philippine island. The Philippines discovered piles of ground-up coral in the Escoda Shoal earlier this year, which were an attempt by China to build an artificial island in the shoal in the same manner that it has built in other shoals in the South China Sea, including the West Philippine Sea. Following the discovery, the Philippine Justice Department began gathering evidence for an anticipated international court filing against China for environmental damage. Another step the Philippines took was to permanently deploy its largest Coast Guard vessel, BRP Teresa Magbanua, in the Escoda Shoal, to deter the return of any Chinese ships to restart the construction. 2 other Philippine Coast Guard ships provide support and replenishment to the Teresa Magbanua, enabling it to remain on station in the shoal. The permanent stationing of the Teresa Magbanua has been an increasing source of irritation to China, which eventually sent and anchored the largest Coast Guard ship in the world, CCG 5901, also known as the Monster, within the Philippine ship's site. China, unable to persuade the Philippines to leave the area, has accused the Philippines of using the same strategy to anchor the Teresa Magbanua, as they did when they grounded the Sierra Madre in the Second Thomas Shoal. They are now referring to this anchoring as virtual grounding, to enable the Philippines to maintain a manned presence in the shoal. China appears to be attempting to prevent the resupply of the Teresa Magbanua by deploying numerous ships, including planned warships, to the region and intercepting Philippine ships there. This week, the Philippine and United States military met in consultations over regional issues. After the meeting, Philippine Armed Forces Chief General Romeo Brawner Jr. met with the commander of the U.S. Indo-Pacific Command, Admiral Samuel Paparo, and held a press conference afterward. In response to a question, Admiral Paparo stated that the United States was open to consultations about having U.S. Navy ships escort Philippine ships delivering food and supplies in the region. General Brawner added the Philippines needs to exercise caution before seeking U.S. assistance, citing Philippine law and a constitutional restriction on foreign forces participating in local combat operations. The Philippines is committed to exploring all available options before seeking U.S. assistance. Even as the situation escalates, the Philippines appears to be trying to stop it. Therefore, it is likely that the Philippines intends to continue waging the battle of world opinion by highlighting Chinese aggression and applying various forms of international pressure on China in the hopes of achieving some form of compromise with China. The Philippine strategy has a goal to get the Chinese to drop their claims in the region, but it will likely have to play the long game, as China appears unwilling to withdraw soon. The deployment of planned warships to the region represents a significant escalation, not typically seen at the Second Thomas Shoal, and is a clear attempt to intimidate the Philippines to abandon the region, or to obstruct aid to the Teresa Magbanua, thereby forcing it to leave the shoal. Should that occur, it's reasonable to anticipate that the Chinese will obstruct the Philippines' attempts to re-enter the shoal in the future.